I'm just saying, I don't want nobody to give me no slack for drinking my Sam's Cola. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, Sam's Club is cool with it.
I know, right?
That's the
Sam's
next
Club,
sponsor opportunity.
unofficial drink.
Oh, all right, here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fourth and Family. Fourth and Family, where family comes first and every conversation counts. So, you've got our resident veteran on the line with us today. We've got Quail, who is coming on with some amazing perspective with football and all these sports that we're going to be referring to and talking about. And then you've got myself, JR, and we are just missing one of our group members tonight in our first episode, but you guys will definitely have an opportunity to meet our buddy and family Diallo in the near future, in the future episodes. So we want to talk a little bit about what we do here on Fourth and Family. You get 4 specific individuals. We all bring a lot of great things. We bring humor. We talk about sports. We laugh a lot. We also dive into real life in this group. And with that same energy, we also don't use any scripts. There's no timeouts. It's all straight and forward. First down, second down, third down, and we go through it and go for it every time here on Fourth and Family. So we want to welcome you guys to our first episode.
Welcome.
So before we jump into the conversations tonight, gentlemen, let's let everybody get to know who you guys are real quick. We ain't gonna do no long introductions, but let's let those wonderful people that are gonna be tuning in with us know who everyone is. Resident vet, I'm gonna start with you.
Don't start with the resident vet.
Gotta respect the veterans.
This other group. This is my son to the left, my nephew to the bottom, and my other nephew that will be joining us later on. So that's who I am. I'm the resident vet.
There's our resident vet.
That told us nothing, but okay.
That's it. That's who I am. Let's rock and roll. Bears guy. How about that?
No, too late. It's
Walter.
my turn.
Walter's never far.
My turn. Big Steelers fan.
We don't know how he got in the locker room either. We don't know how he did that.
I walked in the stadium. That's how. Right in through the front door. But yeah, we'll be coming with football takes, basketball takes, and then the summer months, maybe even baseball. Baseball or
James love baseball. He be going to baseball games in Chicago. Go Cubs, go!
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is the Cubbies year.
Chicago. Cubs. Oh, no.
That sounds like the Cowboys.
What?
No, you don't know this Cubs song?
What?
Son, I got to get you hip to the baseball.
Yeah. Let me go ahead and get some tickets.
I'm also a Yankees
fan.
Boy, if you didn't know.
My second baseball team is the Pirates, though.
That's a division rival for us here, even though they're not really a rival to anybody, but
no, they're not.
They got the best pitcher in the league anyway. That's about it.
They do. It comes to the Yankees.
Skeens is that real guy.
The White Sox picked up, was it the White Sox or the Cubs picked up somebody that everybody was ranting about the other day?
The Japanese.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Was it the Cubs or the White Sox?
I think it was the White Sox.
I think
was it the White Sox?
Let's see.
I think it was the White Sox.
See, we're going to start off this by looking up a completely different sport than the one we're in.
Hey, but that's what we said. We off script. Ain't no script. And just for the record, Skittles, the unofficial sponsor of Fourth and Family. Come on, Skittles, get on board. Right now, it's unofficial.
Well, Skittles, you've heard.
You heard. Come on, Skittles. But so, James, JR, introduce yourself.
Well, now that my government is out there, no, I'm JR. I'm also a resident Bears fan. We've got 2 of us. That's also something that you guys will learn. Our foursome here is 2 Bears fans and 2 unfortunate Steelers fans. So we pray for them a lot, and we celebrate the Bears being in first place right now. So
Hey,
That's how we
we're
end.
technically still in first place.
Well,
Yeah,
that is true.
yeah, yeah.
That is true too.
That tells you a lot about that division. Yes, that's me. Bears fan, sports wise, I'm pretty much a sports guy. So I wouldn't even call myself just a football guy. I'm like, well, we're just sports. I love it. I coach it. I played it. So like it's my life. So this is super exciting for me.
Objective here is to just, like JR stated earlier, just entertain. We're gonna bring perspectives. Hey, it might not be top notch. Y'all might say they don't know what they're talking about. We know enough to talk about what we're gonna talk about. And that's what we're gonna talk about. But at the moment, we're gonna talk about Skittles, the unofficial sponsor of Fourth and Family. All right, what we gonna talk about? Here we go.
So what we do with these segments is we break them down into, obviously our name is Fourth and Family. So we're going to go downs. We'll have our first down subject, second down subject, third down subject, and then for fourth down, we do something special. Every episode could be something a little bit different with how we handle fourth downs, but they will always be a special treat. Today, I think we are going to do individual rants is the best word we could probably come up. We're going to talk about things that each one of us is passionate about in the sports, football, whatever it is that they want to talk about world. So, first down, let's dive into that first subject, gentlemen. What's the first subject we want to talk about this season?
What you got, Quail?
We can go back to the Japanese player that just came over, the White
Okay.
Sox. It was the White Sox.
Okay.
And also Miami tonight held
Yes.
Ohio State to -3 rushing yards in the first half.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the score?
17-7.
17-7.
What, third quarter?
Yep.
Okay. I thought we were gonna lead off with this Indiana.
Well, how about we put that one second down? Because
Okay.
I would like to talk a little bit more about this Ohio State game.
Okay. Well, what y'all got?
Quell, did you want to start it off or you want me to do it?
All right, you go ahead, Joe.
So as I look at the way that this game is going and being an Indiana fan, I am extremely excited about this, where it's going right now. However, I am a little surprised at the same time. I was extremely happy when IU won the Big Ten championship. We are a basketball school here in Indiana. We are a basketball state. So Indiana University has never, and even though they've had some years where they had some really good players, we have never been a football school, ever. So to see that we legitimately have the best football team in the country, hands down, there's no question about it, is extremely exciting for us. Our basketball team is trying to actually, I guess, carry over some of that momentum because they're playing much better this season, new head coach, all those great things. But getting back to the football, Ohio State has the ball down by 10. Like Coyle just said, -3 total rushing yards. And that's not Ohio State standard. Sayan is a guy who all season was supposed to be in there with Mendoza as a Heisman candidate. And right now he looks like just a dude. I mean, 15 for 24 I'm looking at. He's got an interception. So he's got 14 completions to his team and 1 to the other team. So, I mean,
So let me ask you this question. Do you think, because Quail, when we were off script talking, one of you guys made a point of the gap in time. So do you think Miami was able to dissect film and kind of exploit where they don't really get that luxury during the season? Do you think that's what it is? Or is Miami just that good of a team that Notre Dame is sitting at home on purpose? Which one is it?
I think it's a combination of Miami's already played another game. They played in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think sometimes the rest of the bye week be a little too much because Ohio State last played what, beginning of the month,
Yeah.
conference
When was it? It's
championship.
been about a month now. When was the
Yeah,
championship? It was that last week or
December,
the first week in December, right?
first week of December. Yeah.
So they've been off for almost a month. Meanwhile, Miami played almost 2 weeks ago. That has to account a little bit. But then I'll go back to something that James said about Indiana legitimately being the best team. No, well, okay, yeah. So Indiana beat Ohio State. It was a close game, and
December
this is still a
6th.
close game. But Miami kind of dominating the game, at least a little bit. Does that not kind of knock Indiana down a little bit? Because is this more of an indication on Ohio State rather? Because I don't know. Um, I don't think Miami's that good of a team to only put up, what was it, 10 points last week again, or 2 weeks ago
Mhm.
against Texas A&M,
Right.
and then
I don't think I don't think I don't think Ohio State, looking the way they look today, has anything to do with Indiana because
Mhm.
that was a defensive battle. If you looked at Indiana through the season, they were scoring 56. Let me see. They scored 56, 31,
A lot of points.
55, 56. They are scoring machine.
Mhm.
But there's gonna come a time where you're gonna have to hunker down. And when they were able to hunker down, they could do that. Every game ain't gonna be lights out, lighting up the scoreboard. But so I don't think that discredits Indiana's victory over Ohio State at all. That just proved to me, in my opinion, it proved they really were the number one team because you were able to go toe to toe. Because nobody, even as an Indiana fan, you don't expect them. You want them to go into the game, but you don't expect them to hold Ohio State to 10 points. You just
Mhm.
didn't see that. You thought it was going to be a shootout. And so, yeah, I don't think that this Miami game discredits Indiana's game at all.
Yeah. I agree 100%. I don't think where this game is right now says anything negatively about Ohio State. What I do think that it does, though, because Coyle, you were saying like Miami, you don't think they're that good. I think they're proving that they are. I think they're showing everybody things that people didn't believe in them and the faith that people didn't have in them. Because I mean, you got to look at who this team has. Carson Beck was at Georgia for 4 years. He's got two national championships. Like, this is not
Yeah.
just some guy they picked up off the waiver wire. He is a national, multi-time national champion who's led one of the top programs in the nation for 4 years and just so happened to say, I want to go somewhere else with my extra year eligibility. And now he's leading a Miami team. He's
Mm-hmm.
never been a guy who, scouts looked at and said, oh, this guy is the number one pick,
Right.
but he's a winner. And when we start talking more about the NFL, like we compare people like Jalen Hurts, like their stats don't always jump off the board at you, but they just win and they keep winning. So I think Miami is a lot better than we want to probably think that they are. Ohio State is driving right now. And I was talking earlier about saying before we came on, the quarterback at Ohio State. And yes, he has thrown an interception, but he's thrown for 247 yards. He's driving his team. They may score here. If it's 17-14, are we still talking, oh, this game is over? No. It's 16 seconds left in the third quarter, more than enough time. So personally, I just think that Ohio State is very good. That long layoff is a problem. And that is just what happens. Like football, we also talked about it's a repetition sport. Like you get into habits, you get in routines. And as soon as you break that, it's sometimes more challenging. I mean, that's why they go to training camp for 6 weeks before you start the season, in addition to all those optional workouts and, all these different things that they do for months before. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. So y'all want to get into this Indiana? Let me blow the whistle. we're gonna go into this Indiana Alabama game because that's what I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Indiana Hoosiers, right? Who
Mhm.
would have thought Indiana would be the number one team in the country?
Not
Wow.
me.
I've been watching Indiana since I was a kid. I'm from Indiana. That's all I know is Notre Dame and IU. Never been a Purdue fan. I wonder why.
Yeah.
But this time tomorrow, the script will be wrote. What do y'all think? I think Indiana. I'm not an Alabama fan, but I'm not gonna bash them because they're Alabama. So we got to compete. We got to show up. So do we? What do we look like, James? What are your expectations? What do you expect to see out of this Indiana team? Is it going to be a high scoring game? Is it going to be a drag out battle? What do you think?
So two things I'm gonna reveal first. When Nick Saban was at Alabama, I was actually an Alabama, I won't say a fan, but I liked Alabama under Nick Saban because I like him as a coach. I almost kind of patterned the way I coach basketball to how he is, like levels of accountability. I'm not as strict and as hardcore, but still there are expectations. You come in, you got a job to do. It's your job to do your job. And when you don't do your job, you letting your team down. And if you're gonna be here letting the team down, we don't need you here. And so that was one of the things I loved about Alabama. But again, this season, I won't say I was surprised that they did well because last year was also an amazing run. Like this team went to the national or the playoff last year. They were one of the top 5 teams, most of the season last year. And then they just retooled this year. They got really better secretly. Like nobody realized what they had done. When they went and got Mendoza, like nobody knew that he was coming, but like the insiders, like I watch a lot of this stuff about like how they scouted him and who he was before he came to IU. He was the top asset. Like he was one of those top guys that everybody was trying to go get. And Kurt Signetti, I think, is just. I try not to give any human like just too high levels of praise, but I
Mhm.
think Kurt Signetti is just. He's one of those guys that like as a coach and as a not as a coach, but as a person who runs an organization
Mhm.
because a team is an organization. If you got a good leader like that, that knows how to push all the buttons, certain standards, we don't mess these standards up to create support and also success. I mean, he's showing he's that guy. And Mendoza is just the perfect quarterback right now. They pretty much have everything you would want in a dream team. They got it. And you asked the question about like, do I expect this to be a high scoring game? Honestly, I don't know. But that's the beauty of it for Indiana on the good side for me is that IU has shown they can do either one. Like
Right.
Ohio State, one of the best. Ohio State was a higher scoring team than IU this year. And IU was the second highest scoring team. We were just looking at their points like 56, 56, 59. 30 was a low game for them. They dropped what 70 something on Purdue. Like they are a team that can definitely put the ball in the end zone. And then against their best and toughest competition, you hold them to what 10 points? Like I just think they are all around the best team in the country. And I think whatever the format is or whatever the game needs to be, IU is built to do it. Alabama, on the other hand, I think they need specific situations this year to really have the game go their way. They're not the Alabama team of old. They're not the
So
same team.
in games where Indiana had to hunker down, they beat Iowa, number 23 team in the country, 20-15.
Mm-hmm.
They beat number 5 Oregon, 30-20. And they played Michigan State, where they had to hunker down. They had to come from behind on the last play to beat Penn State, 27-24. Then this last one, Ohio State, 13-10. So they've shown that we can run over you but we can also hunker down and play football and come up with some victories.
Yeah.
That Penn State game was last play of the game,
Yeah.
but that's why you play to the whistle.
Yeah.
It's not over to all the zeros on the board. So I'm excited about it. I think we can pull it off. So yeah, Alabama guy, Quail, what you got? Because he likes Alabama. I told you
Real
that's
quick,
what son,
well, just
how my son don't like no team
Yeah.
that I like. I don't know how that happened.
I'm a secondary kind of Bears fan, or
Okay.
I'm not a fan. But I
I was about
root
to say
Not
that
a
don't even
fan.
sound
You're
right.
Not a
I
fan.
root for them every once in a while.
Right, this ass, I got you. Liz, we'll take that. The root for is every once in a while.
Um, I was gonna save mine for my fourth down rant,
Okay.
but I think Alabama can pull it off.
Okay.
I think so because they've already had a gauntlet schedule right there in the middle. They played 4 ranked teams in a row, 2 on the road, 2 at home, and they won them all. They were close games for the most part, but they were close games. And I think that Alabama, while they're not explosive, they don't have a run game. I think they can pull it off because they've already done it multiple times this season.
Okay.
So let me ask you this though, because I agree with you about Alabama. I think I agree with some of what you said about Alabama. They definitely had a gauntlet of a schedule. And they're in the SEC. So, I mean, that conference is just a beast in itself. But when you look at the games that they played, like they lost to Florida State at Florida State, and it wasn't a pretty game at all. And I know that that's one game. The Monroe, Wisconsin. Then they run a lot of games in a row. Close loss to Oklahoma, which is probably the game that really, I think, hurt them as far as their chances. And then that Georgia game was payback. I knew that was going to happen. They weren't going to beat Georgia twice. Like Kirby Smart, he's not going to lose to you twice.
Maybe if Nick Saban was still there, but
Maybe,
that would have been the only time.
Yeah. I think we should also talk about that, the coach. Like I think he's a good coach. I don't know if he's an Alabama coach, if that makes sense. I think he's going to go somewhere else and thrive. Like if he was out like at USC or something, I think he would be perfect. But Alabama is one of those grit, grind, we do whatever it takes, hardworking, blue collar, and, he's a little different. So, yeah, I do think that they...
I'll mention because I'm in a lot of Alabama fan posts and threads. That seems to be a lot of the sentiment, but it's also a lot of scheme. Following Nick Saban, who likes big, chunky offensive line guys in like the inside zone running scheme, and Kalen DeBoer is more of a athletic offensive line and going outside. And so that's also part of the reason why they don't have a run game is because they don't really have the players to fit his scheme yet.
But do you think that's I mean, he's been there 3 years now, right?
This is just his second year.
So, with the portal and the way things are now, you can turn that team completely around in 1 year. Like, look at what IU did.
You could. Yes.
Nettie came in the very first year. Last year was his first year. Remember, y'all got to look at what IU was the year before you got there. Like, they were the worst team in the Big Ten. You went from being the worst to the best team. And then, now you're the best team in the country. 2 years is enough time in today's landscape to completely turn your team around. Now, back in, again, the heart of Nick Saban's era, maybe not, but I don't know. And I agree with you. I'm not saying that he has everything he needs to perfect it, like perfectly run a scheme, but I still think you can be a good running team without having everything.
I agree with that part.
Go ahead, Quill. What was you? And then I'm gonna say something about what James
Uh,
just said.
um, I agree that you don't have to have everything perfect to have a good run game. I agree with that. But I'll push back on the Kurt Zanetti he could do whatever he wanted pretty much in the transfer portal at Indiana because they sucked, you know? Like he can like there wasn't a mold that he has to kind of follow. You know what I'm saying? Kalen DeBoer coming in after Nick Saban, you kind of have to what's the right word? Like catch up in a way to keep some of the players from transferring out. And that's what he had to do a lot of. So he couldn't really bring people in because he was trying to keep certain players instead of going and getting players. You know what I'm saying? And so this first 2 years, really, he was trying to keep players. Well, really the first year. And then this year, he brought in some guys that he wanted. But I don't think that he's gotten the system set up just yet. Because technically, it would be his first year in terms of being able to bring in players that he actually wants.
So I'm gonna ask you this question real quick, Unc, and I'm sorry, I just it's like directly to what he said. So do you think it's more difficult for a coach that goes to a bad team to bring in quality players, or for a coach that goes to a good program and has to take over to bring in quality players?
But I think it's easier. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Do you think it's easier to do it for the one side or the other?
I think it depends on the coach. It's like going to Alabama, 100%. It would be easier to get somebody to come over to Alabama than before a person that came to Indiana, going to Indiana. I agree with that part. But Kurt Zanetti's a winner. People follow him type of thing.
Or was too. He had just come to
Yeah.
championship. He was
Lost.
literally he lost.
Yeah.
But I mean, how many people get to say I just was playing in the national
I agree, but I don't know. Sorry, you go ahead.
I think the thing that we're missing now is the kids got options.
Right.
So when you're talking about Nick Saban, kids didn't go to Alabama because of Alabama. They went to Alabama because of Nick Saban. And so
they did.
If that's the case, then why aren't kids listen? Hold on. So if that was the case, kids would still be going. The portal opened up opportunities that kids didn't have. And I say kids, they're not kids. Young men had. The young men have more options now. And they have a lot more exposure. That's why kids are okay, I don't like this team, let me move on. Okay, I don't like it here, let me move on. They're chasing that positioning. And so where Alabama could just bring in, because everybody wanted to go be seen. Well, now you got, they playing football on every channel you want to see now. And so kids are getting exposure now. And so all I got to do is position myself where all of these subpar, think about USC. Sure, USC on the West Coast is a big time school, right? But who on the East Coast is going to stay up to watch USC play UCLA? Well, now USC is playing in the Big Ten, right? So now you playing at 12 o'clock in the afternoon when you playing Ohio State. So now I'm getting some exposure. So the exposure is so much wider now for these kids that everybody can't go to Alabama. Everybody can't go to Georgia. And guess what? I don't have to. I can go to Iowa and get all the playing time I want because you're going to play Oregon. You're going to play Ohio State. You're going to play Indiana. You're going to play Penn State. Anybody know Penn State environment is hostile. And that's exposure. So it's all about exposure. Yeah, college football is cool, but these kids are smart now. You got their NIL, they making money. They're able to move around, and they can expose themselves to this whole big old market where people are going to be able to talk about me even though I didn't make it to Alabama. Well, maybe I didn't make it to Georgia. I might be, and I'm not knocking no program. I promise you when I say what I'm saying. If I go to Iowa, am I still gonna get seen? Yeah, you're gonna get seen. If I go to name another SMU, we was just talking about SMU earlier. If I go there, am I gonna get seen? Yeah, you're gonna get seen because you were in the championship game, right? So that's all I'm saying. The portal, I think the portal is good and bad. I'm a fan of the portal because of the kids, because I feel like the kids have been manipulated and used for so many years. But now it's like you open the floodgates and now they kind of the roles are reversed and it's kind of like okay now it's my turn and it's kind of gotten out of control in my opinion. I think it needs to be reeled in and kind of fine-tuned, but I'm not against the portal at all, and I think that's that level playing field where you got kids or schools where you never even thought a kid would want to go to because they're going to get exposure and they're going to eventually produce. That's my opinion.
So, real quick, I looked up something based on what you guys were just talking about with like the players that having options and like you didn't go to Alabama because of Alabama, you went because of Nick Saban. So I looked at the roster for Alabama and I had it do some math for me. And I said, look up and look at their roster and tell me how many of the players are from Alabama or Mississippi, which is their breeding ground. Alabama's roster has 60, 68. I want y'all to take a wild guess how many of those players are from Alabama or Mississippi.
32.
Nope. Their full roster. So not including injuries or anything like that. So that's including everybody they recruited, all that good stuff.
32.
I can't say my number.
No, the number is 51. That's what Alabama is known for. Them kids that live in Alabama and Mississippi, after they say dada as their first word, the next two words they're probably learning is roll tide.
Roll Tide.
Like that's what they do down there. They breathe and eat and sleep Alabama since birth. Like,
but that's
so,
Alabama. That's the same thing here in Arkansas. These kids want to go be a Razorback. That's what they
right,
want
but
to do.
right, but you said that you were saying that those kids weren't going to Alabama because of Alabama.
I'm talking about my kids. I'm talking about all these other kids.
Right.
Your kids in Indiana, they gonna want to go up 70 to IU.
We actually got a player at our school that's going to Alabama. He's a boy from Indianapolis, Indiana, who is going to Alabama. He's Alabama.
When Nick Saban, but because you got to remember too, that was pre-portal. A lot of that was pre-portal. A lot of it, not all of it. He was there for the beginning part of the portal. But when Nick Saban comes knocking on your door in Michigan, you going to Alabama.
Right, right.
Now you can come knock on my door and I'm going to entertain you. And I'm in Michigan, but I'm also going to entertain somebody else now too because the options are so much wider.
That's true. Yeah,
I went to Alabama. I'm going to go to Alabama because sure, you're Nick Saban, but also that's my avenue to the NFL.
Yeah.
Now the avenue is a you ever been to Texas? The Dallas they got all them things like this. There's so many avenues to the NFL. So I don't have to go to Alabama. I don't have to go to Georgia. I don't have to go to all of those quote unquote power teams.
Yeah.
All I got to do is get myself exposed and play solid football.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying. Sure, the Alabama kid's going to go to Alabama because it's Alabama. Indiana kid's going to go to Notre Dame or try to go to Notre Dame, Indiana. Arkansas kids want to go to be a Razorback. That's what they want to do.
Now, I think about that too because, like, when I'm talking about Finch, so his name is Jeremy Finch. He's the one that's a senior this year at Warren, same grade as Jordan. And he the one going to Alabama. And, like, Finch did an interview, and they was like, why'd you choose Alabama? Like, I mean, if you go to Alabama, he's definitely a highly recruited player. And he talked about, like, the prestige and all like that. Like, elite players still go to schools because of the pedigree of the school.
Mhm.
Because typically those extremely high levels, not just those dudes that's like, I'm gonna be a pro athlete and I don't have any type of like maturity or accountability, or like I can't do any of that stuff. I just am great because I watch videos. Yeah, they just want to go to the big name, the big opportunity. Where's the NIL money at? But the kids that are typically the extreme, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-star recruits that are the top 10 in the rankings and all that good stuff, normally behind them are people that are still that hardcore. You're going to be great. You're going to be a hard worker. You're going to do this. You want to go to the right environment. And like, that's what I'm still seeing. So yes, I agree with you 100% that like the landscape has changed it all. Like I was talking to one of the old teachers now, he coaches D3 basketball now. And he was saying how the landscape is so different, like what you're saying. Like these kids nowadays, they just come in here, everybody trying to chase the money, everybody trying to chase, playing time, opportunity. Nobody's sticking it out. The moment they get a little bit of playing time, everybody trying to hop in the portal and transfer or like, but those top guys are still the same. And that's why I'll be trying to tell people, these kids don't understand that really, if you really trying to go to the NFL or you really trying to go to a high level professionally, you going to go where you're going to have the best opportunity to be prepared to be a pro. So if you a 5-star recruit, that's why dudes that's 5-star recruits not going to Purdue if Alabama is coming to knock. Like Fish got an offer from Purdue, but he definitely ain't going there. Like,
but you also said, so sure, the 5-star recruits, sure, they're gonna go to the big schools. But the twos and three, I say twos and threes, twos and threes, sure, are just solid, coachable kids who I can put in a winning situation and they don't have to go to Alabama and they can win.
Right.
Everybody that's on that Miami team that you watching, everybody that's on that Texas team weren't 5-star recruits or 4-star recruits, but they won today.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, but here's the other thing. And I don't even have to make the NFL now. All I got to do is make enough money in the NIL, in whatever that thing is called. And that's going to set me up. So if I don't make the NFL, if I didn't went to college for 3 years, I done made some money, enough money to, start whatever I'm going to do after college football. So even if I don't make the NFL, it was always, if you didn't make the NFL, now you got to go get a job.
Yeah.
Hell.
But now you can go get $10 million a year playing college football.
You better not give them a 5-year option now. You can really retire now.
But
the average career in the NFL is what?
Like 4, 3, or 4.
Yeah. So I just did that in college, playing against some kids, and made me a couple $1 million. So yeah, I'm good. That's the part where I think they need to kind of fine tune it. I ain't trying to take no money out of nobody's mouth, but yeah.
I've got a 4th down rant that I plan on using at some point about that.
Let me blow the whistle. Hold on. Let me see.
Did you actually blow it last time?
I didn't hear it.
The unofficial sponsor. I need a sponsor break while I find this whistle. We working on some things, guys. We gonna have it all together. By the 4th or 5th one, we gonna have it.
Oh,
Hold
yeah.
on. Let me blow the whistle for you. Here you go.
Was that it?
Was that wait? I thought that was a smoke detector beat.
All right, here we go. Hold on. Doggone it. I had a whole whistle. Where that whistle at? Here we go.
There you go.
3rd down. 3rd and 10.
Right now. All right, here we go. What you got, son?
So if we're on 3rd down, or we?
No, we're on 3rd or 4th.
We're on 3rd down now.
Well, 2nd down was too long. Let's go to 4th.
I know. We'll go with a short one. I do have one topic that we didn't talk about, but it's the one we probably won't spend a lot of time on. So we had talked a little bit about the scheduling for the season in college. Let's talk a little bit about that. Oregon coach Mike Lanning has some interesting comments about it, and he was saying that he thinks the college football season should end January 1st. He was saying it's too long in between bowl games and the end of the season. And then also, when you're going so late or mid-January and you've got these elite level teams that are going to like national championships and the playoffs, and these coaches are getting these other jobs. And then you also got the transfer portal opening up January 2nd. So you've got roster uncertainty happening right at the worst time for you to possibly have that happen. What are y'all thoughts about that? What do you think about the schedule of the season of college football?
I was watching a show, I don't know what I was watching, where somebody recommended taking away conference championships and then starting that. So that starts everything in December, beginning of December. At the same time, you have some of those little bowls that nobody really realizes is on until you turn on the TV to watch Frosty the Snowman, and then you realize it's the Pop Your Finger Bowl is on. So that would kind of eliminate some of that stuff, or, it would kind of blend so that by the time you get to mid-December or late December, you've already played a lot of those games. And so, sure, by the time it's January, growing up, January 1st was football. That was New Year's Day was all football. When you went to bed at night, January 1st, college football was over. That's all I've known. So every once in I remember where they kind of stretched it out till it was like the next week for the championship. But for the most part, I think college football has it's all about the money for sure, revenue. And so stretching it out creates more money. But at the same time, you putting these kids at a position where a lot of them are opting out. Well, you got to think one thing, what happens in April?
The
combine. And so I can't risk late December, early January for the benefit of if we make it to this championship game, when, hey, 3 months from now, I got to make sure my body's healed up. I got to go produce. I got to get my pro day in May. I got to be ready now because you've gotten all you're going to get out of me right now. I need to prepare for the future. So the kids, I think yes, January 1st, that first week of January, I think college football should be done what it's going to do. Because again, we talked about earlier, now you're running into the NFL playoff time. And so now you juggling all of that. So yeah, sure. I think beginning January, college football should be calling it a night.
Yeah. You said the combine was in April, but the draft is.
Yeah, I know. I said.
I'm sorry. Yeah, the combine's in March.
Yeah, it is.
No, actually, it's in February.
Combine?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah. End of February.
I've been living with it for 19 years. It is end of February. Sometimes it's the middle. And then they have like a month between that and the draft. Sometimes like a month and a half or something.
Okay.
But
all right. That's my take on it. I'm all for it.
Well, what you think?
I agree that it should be over by the beginning of January. Maybe not the first, maybe, the first week, somewhere in there of January. And I think they should move up the start date, those first couple weeks. Instead of the end of August, make it like the middle of August. They're already back in school at most places. The football teams are there all summer, or most of the summer anyway. And so they're already there. So you could move it up a couple weeks to be there, to give chance for those bowl games that aren't in the playoffs at least a little bit of shine, during those couple weeks, and then you still finish, the first day of January or sometime during that first week.
So, and I agree with you guys too. I actually do think the first is a good day though, January 1st, because look at what bowl games are actually after the first. And typically it's not really very many. I mean, now that the playoff is going, that's pretty much what is happening after the first. Because the first is where you got those big three typically. So you got the Rose Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl, and that other bowl. I think one of the biggest issues, and you were talking about like the logistics of doing something like starting the season earlier. I don't really think they even need to start the season earlier because there's so many gaps in December. Like, if you're a team that's going to the playoff and you got to bye, you're not playing again until either early January or very end of December anyway. So what are you doing with your team for 4 weeks? It was another coach. I can't think of who it was. Oh, the same guy, Mike Lanning. He was asking, no, it wasn't because he had a bye before. It was some other coach that's in the playoffs now. And he asked Kyle Whittingham last year when they went with Utah, he was like, what did you do with your team over these extra weeks, these gap weeks, to like keep them ready to go? And so like when a coach has to get into that type of situation where you got to figure out what do I do with them, I think that's an issue. And I think honestly, that's a part of what we're seeing with Ohio State. We talked about that, like the sluggish start, like you said, Quail, they haven't played football for real in a month. And so any human, sometimes we struggle with keeping momentum, even from losses. Like after a month, normally if I go through a tough situation, I'm all right after a month. So am I able to keep that intensity up for 30 days to go back and be able to avenge that? And I'm playing somebody completely different. Like that's why I don't think there's really an issue at all doing it logistically. If we remove the conference games, okay, we got a little more room to play with now. I don't think you necessarily even need to move the conference games or remove them either, though. I think conference game week, you have your bye week people then next week. I mean, like the NFL model. They don't have all that time off between then and the playoffs.
So if they were to, let's just go with this analogy. If we were to eliminate so the college playoffs started December 19th. So basically they run for a month. January 19th is championship. If you was to move that back 1 week, that puts the championship game next week.
Mm-hmm.
So also looking at next week is the semifinals. So that's really just 4 games. I mean, 4 teams. It's 2 games.
Right.
So in theory, running long, but it's not a lot of teams. So you're going from January the 1st. So basically going about 20 days from January the 1st to January 19th before you play your championship game.
But that's also the reason why it could easily fit into December, because you push it back 20 days, you're still giving everybody a week, some of them 2 weeks off before their first playoff game.
Okay. But do they need a week off?
No. But that's my point though, is that you still got a lot of room to play with. So like worst case scenario, they still got a week or 2 off, even if you move it back all into December.
If they expand the bracket, then they're gonna have to do something. So something gonna give anyway.
Yeah, and they probably will. That's probably another conversation we should put on the list to have potential playoff expansion. That was the whistle.
All right, fourth down. Ain't that what they do? Fourth down. They do that for fourth quarter. I'm sorry. They don't do this for fourth down. They be like this. Oh God, we gotta punt the ball. Well, no punting around here. We don't punt on fourth down. We go for it on fourth down. Yeah. And so Quail has a rant that he's gonna give us for our first fourth down. Our first fourth down, but technically our last fourth down for 2025. What you got, son?
Let's see. Alabama will be winning tomorrow against Indiana. Now I'm going to throw a little bit of math at you.
Not math.
Okay. Yeah, just a little bit of math.
Okay.
So earlier, you guys were talking about all of the different games that Indiana scored a lot of points. And they did. They averaged 41.9 points per game. Alabama only averaged 31. Okay. And then for total offense, let's see, Indiana averaged about 470 a game, and Alabama was around 350. Now, then I broke it down into passing. Alabama averaged 270 yards a game, while Indiana only averaged 251. Now, mind you, that's the Heisman Trophy winner at Indiana.
You said how much? 247 to 251.
No. Alabama was 270. Indiana was 251.
That's just one play.
Okay, hold on.
You
I'm not
can't
done.
interrupt his rant.
I'm not done. Then we flip it to the defensive side. Okay. Hold on, because look what you did.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Indiana's defense allowed over the season 179 and a half yards per game. Alabama's defense allowed only 168 passing yards per game. I don't have to do the rushing. And then defensively, again, this is total yards. Indiana, over 13 games, allowed 2,334 yards. Okay. Alabama, playing one more game because they played the first round, only allowed 2,357. What I mean by this is that it will be a defensive game, I think. And Alabama showed in their last game against Oklahoma that they can win tough games in tough environments. I kind of still struggle to see Indiana as a powerhouse, in that in a neutral site that they can go out there and show that they are the number one team. I don't think that they can do that. And let me figure out my words. I don't believe in Indiana. That's what it is. Alabama is they're going to put an end to it. That's what it is. Now you can respond.
Well, that's
You want to go first or you want me to go?
It's up to you how you want to do this. Well, so for our rants, real quick, for our rants, we want to just obviously make sure we give everybody like the full time to get their full thing out. So
Okay.
that way I'll make sure I don't interrupt either, because I know I'm gonna be bad at that. But yep, go ahead.
I'm only going to say 3 things, maybe 3, maybe 4. Indiana is not going into this game as a powerhouse. Indiana is not a powerhouse. Indiana is not coming in as a juggernaut.
Mm-hmm.
Big boys on the block and knocking folks down. That's not who they are. Indiana has been progressively gotten to this point where they have put together a team that can compete and play good, solid football. That's who they are. They're not Alabama. They're not Georgia. They're not Michigan. They're not Ohio State. Never have been, probably never will be. They're not a football school. Indiana's a basketball school. So they're not coming in. So the mark of number 1 is not too big for them, because they shouldn't have it anyway. And they're, nobody's expecting them to handle. So that's a burden they don't have to carry, of carrying that number 1 on our back. We just come in and play some football. We've been winning. We've been playing football, and just so happened that we just happen to win all of our games. I don't care how many less yards we get or how many more yards you get. We just won football games. And here we are. We put ourselves in this position. So that's who Indiana's going into that game as. They're not going in to defeat the big bad rolling tide. They can't do that because they don't have that pedigree. That's not their label. They're going in as the Indiana Hoosiers, who came into this playoff series undefeated, the only undefeated team, who has the Heisman Trophy winner, 20 yards less or not, that's who they are. And they're going to come on that field and they're going to walk all over the tie. That's all I got.
So I really echo most of that. I was just trying to think of how I wanted to word this. Some of the way you describe the reasoning why Indiana, I believe, is going to win this game, I kind of think differently about. I think Indiana, they're not a traditional juggernaut, which is probably the better way to describe it, in my opinion. They're not one of those programs where it's like every year you know Indiana's going to be there and they're typically going to smack people around and this is just who they are. But this season, they are. And, you know, one of the other things about like teams that are really good, teams that typically win national championship, like I look back at Ohio State last year, they dominated most of the teams they played. But those tough games, like the Michigan game, claw, fights, scratch, whatever you got to do to win the game. And the really good teams, the championship caliber teams, know how to do that. IU literally showed they could beat you anyway. That's the definition of a dominant football team. I don't have to just beat you by blowing you out by 50 points. We can also get into a defensive battle and we'll still beat you. We can get into a close game and I still will beat you. You can be winning for most of the game, Penn State, and I'll still come back and beat you. That's what they have shown. And that's the reason why I feel like, yes, they are dominant. They are the best team in the country. And they are the juggernauts this year. So the reason I think they're going to beat Alabama is because, again, even when I look at the teams, though, like the comparison between the two rosters, the coaching, who would I rather have, Cignetti or DeBoer? I'm taking Cignetti. If I had to flip coaches and put DeBoer here in Indiana and Cignetti down there in Alabama, which team do I think would be the same or better or worse? I think DeBoer coming here to Indiana, we're an average team again. I don't think they're going to be horrible, but I don't think they're what we see right now under Kirk Cignetti. Because what it took to turn Indiana University football around, not to just be a competitive or a really good team or one of the competitive teams in the conference, honestly, in my opinion, the best conference in the country. You made them the best team in the conference and the country by a wide margin. Like, you look at what they've done this year, any pundit, any stat person is going to tell you statistically, the two elite teams this year in college football were both in the Big Ten. Indiana University, Ohio State. They were the most dominant teams all season. So then you got to figure out between the two, who's going to take the head-to-head. Indiana took that game. So, you know, again, I also agree Indiana's, I believe, going to win this game. But I really think they're going to win it because they have just flat out been the best team, but not because of the past. It's because of how Cignetti gets those boys ready to play every single game. They don't think about what they did yesterday. They don't think about how they played and what they accomplished the week before. We on to the next task. We got to go back and do our job. And when you got a quarterback like Mendoza who has the mentality he has.
And a trophy.
And, I mean, he was the best quarterback without the Heisman. Like, I didn't think he was going to get it. I thought Sam was going to get it most of the season. But when you consistently just continue to be the best leader in the country is what I call him. He's the best leader in the country. That's why Alabama's going to lose this game.
Who was the and I'm asking this because I'm 56. I haven't slept since then. Who was the Heisman other people?
Jeremiah, Diego Pavia, Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
And
What
who was
about the guy
other
from not SMU, but BYU? Wasn't he a finalist too? The BYU quarterback? Or did he
No.
not make that Final Four or whatever?
Wasn't it the Missouri quarterback?
No.
So the finalist or
Yeah, that was it. Fernando, Diego
Yeah.
Pavia, Julian Sand, and Jeremiah Love.
Yeah.
Where did the other two quarterbacks come from?
Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt in Ohio?
Yeah.
Ohio State, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. I thought the Ohio State quarterback was going to get it most of the season, especially where they were playing, the way he was playing. I mean, I'm looking at how he playing tonight. He's still a really good quarterback.
What's the score?
24-14 just ended.
The game over?
Yep. Ohio State is going home.
All right. And just like that, Skittles, the unofficial sponsor.
Skittles, in case y'all weren't catching this in the other portions of this particular podcast session, we would love to potentially have a conversation with y'all about partnering.
And some free Skittles. How about that? We will sponsor you all over this place for some free Skittles.
Well, you know what? As we wrap up our first episode, like I'm really, really excited about like what we did tonight and what we are going to be doing with this. Hopefully, people enjoy this. I mean, we like to be real. That is our goal, is to just have a real conversation and have fun. Yeah. Yeah, so I know I did. I know my uncle and my cousin definitely, I'm pretty sure I can speak for them and say that they did as well. And then we'll be excited when Diallo comes back, and we look forward to having more fun with you guys next time. So any parting words that y'all got before we wrap this one up?
I got one. Good, better, best. Never let it rest. When the good gets better, you better get best.
Wait till we get to that conversation, y'all. Y'all better get ready for that Bears conversation. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Bears,
hey,
Bears.
Quail, do you have anything?
Yeah, just 2 words. Roll Tide.
But we didn't see.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. All right, everybody.
What do we say, James? Go Hoosiers.
Go Hoosiers.
Go Hoosiers.
All right, well, everybody, that's the final whistle on the episode of Fourth and Family. We want to thank y'all for rocking with us. Remember, family first always, but most of all, we will see you guys next time. Y'all have a great evening.
Go Bears.